William Hall had been part of the medical world for as long as he could remember. The man grew up in a family of hereditary doctors. His dad was a therapist and his mother was a pediatrician. William's parents taught him to love medicine and respect the medical profession from an early age. Therefore, when William graduated, none of his friends were surprised to see him go to med school. Mr. and Mrs. Hall were very proud of their son, who showed amazing academic success. According to his teachers, William showed great promise in surgery, and after graduating from the university, he would likely be hired by one of the best private clinics. Fortunately, the words of his teachers turned out to be true, and the man did become a successful surgeon. William couldn't explain why he chose this particular profession. Perhaps it was because he considered surgery to be the most important branch of medicine. It was then that William met Monica, with whom he lived with for 15 years. It is worth saying that the couple rushed into this marriage, which ultimately caused it to end in a divorce. Meanwhile, William's parents repeatedly told their son that Monica wasn't a good match for him, as the young people were too different. Monica loved to live in a big way, and satisfying her demands wasn't always easy. Unfortunately, William didn't realize his mistake until it was too late, which cost him some of the best years of his life. The famous surgeon was heartbroken when he found out that his wife had been cheating on him for the past 3 years. But what hurt him the most was that she was doing it with William's best friend, whom he had known since their days on the university football team. Upon learning of the affair, William Hall didn't do anything dramatic. He didn't cause any scenes. Instead, he simply filed for divorce and moved out of their home. Even though their marriage failed, the couple did have a daughter together, whom was now a teenager and chose to live with her mother after the separation. William understood that his wife's choice of a lover could at least partially be explained by the fact that Henry Young was a wealthy businessman who could afford to make grand gestures and expensive gifts. William always knew that his salary wouldn't be enough to bathe his wife in champagne and sponsor her monthly vacations on the islands. Therefore, having become single again, William Hall got a dog and started working on healing his wounds, trying not to focus on the fact that he was 45 years old and that half of his life was already over. The only consolation for the surgeon was his job and his loyal dog, Spike, which he thought of as a true friend. Over time, thanks to his perseverance and dedication, William Hall became the first chief physician of the clinic, in which he worked for 17 years. Having taken this position, William immediately established perfect order and strict discipline at the institution. As soon as William got this position, the clinic staff immediately felt that he was a very talented manager. If it weren't for the failures of his personal life, the chief would have probably considered himself a very fortunate person. Meanwhile, not all the clinic employees liked the innovations of the new chief physician, who demanded strict adherence to job descriptions and compliance with internal regulations. But William felt that he was good at his job and didn't pay any attention to the disgruntled staff. In order to always stay on top of everything that was happening at the clinic, William Hall started every morning by personally going around the rooms and monitoring the condition of patients. Sometimes the man simply talked to them and gave them frank answers to the questions they had. After talking to William, the patients always smiled and felt confident that they would recover soon. During one of those morning rounds, the chief came into the room of Camille Anderson, who had been admitted to their clinic about a month earlier. "How are you feeling today, Mrs. Anderson?" the chief asked his usual question. To answer the man, the patient only forced a smile and cast a guilty look at him, which told the chief a lot. I see. Don't worry, I'm sure that you'll be able to speak again. Your condition was most likely caused by the car accident that you've been in, Mrs. Anderson," said the head physician, who felt deep sympathy for the beautiful patient. William was very soft for Camille, who couldn't speak and had a hard time moving at all. It just so happened that Mrs. Anderson became one of William's favorite patients. That was because the woman stoically endured all the procedures and never once complained of pain or inconvenience. To the chief's surprise, the only visitor Camille ever got was her husband, who was several years younger and behaved as if he were at some boutique or a restaurant and not a hospital. The young man always came with the never-changing Hollywood smile on his face, which made the surgeon suspicious of the sincerity of his feelings. Something in this young handsome man seemed too unnatural to William. Moreover, after each of his visits, William couldn't help but notice tears in the eyes of his favorite patient, and those weren't happy tears. "Mrs. Anderson, why are you crying? Are you worried about something? Does it have anything to do with your husband's visits?" the surgeon asked, feeling awkward. But all he got in response was the tense silence of his patient, who was desperately trying to hide her feelings for everyone around her. William realized that the woman was hiding some secret, but that mystery wasn't easy to solve. However, the head physician had enough of his own problems, which he never had time to deal with. But soon, something happened that turned things upside down. It all started with the fact that a new nurse started working at the trauma department. The new employee's name was Dorothy Parker, and William Hall personally interviewed her for the job. The experienced doctor used this opportunity to bring the new employees up to date and rules of conduct he had established at the clinic. During the interview, Dorothy Parker made a good impression on William. She seemed to be a professional in her field. The nurse looked about 30, and she was well versed in all the medical terms and the specifics of her work. However, Dorothy was very secretive and provided virtually no information about her previous place of work. William found it strange at first, but then he decided to let it go, knowing full well that there weren't enough nurses at the clinic and that it would be reckless to lose such a good candidate. Therefore, William was happy to give her the job, and the next couple of days proved that he made the right decision. But then, Dorothy Parker started acting really weird. The strange part was that Dorothy paid a lot of extra attention to Camille Anderson, who was still at the clinic. At first, Dorothy would simply come into the room to adjust the patient's pillow when it fell to the side and to cover the patient with a blanket. But then, the new nurse began to spend almost all of her free time in Camille's room, coming in 5 times a day. There was definitely something going on there, and it couldn't but distract the attention of William Hall. What does she want from this unfortunate woman? The head doctor thought anxiously, puzzling over this riddle. In the meantime, Dorothy had more and more heart-to-heart conversations with Camille, who didn't know how to get rid of the annoying nurse. To William's surprise, having the nurse spend so much time with Camille had a rather detrimental effect on the patient. She'd become pale as chalk, and her pulse was way too high. This mystery didn't seem like something William could solve on his own. It was obvious that only the women in the room knew what was going on. Trying to find out what Dorothy was talking to Camille about, the head physician of the clinic decided to take a desperate step. Thus, William Hall turned to his old friend, who worked as a private detective. Thanks to his friend, William got his hands on the small video cam intended for covert surveillance. Using the opportunity when Camille Anderson fell asleep after taking her medication, William discreetly set up the video camera in the corner of her room. William directed the camera at the patient's head. Now, all that was left for William to do was wait until Dorothy would come to speak to the sick woman. Fortunately, he didn't have to wait long because the annoying nurse came to visit Camille that same day. And when William Hall looked over the camera footage, his surprise knew no bounds. The video showed Dorothy Parker being very rude and mean. "So what, still lying here? It's okay, don't get up. Just remember, we have your son. Tell us the code to your safe deposit box and we'll leave you and your family alone. And if you don't, you'll never see your son again," Dorothy said angrily, not knowing that her every word was being recorded by a hidden camera. After watching this shocking video, William Hall had no choice but to take it to the nearest police station. Soon, Dorothy Hall was detained, and under the pressure of irrefutable evidence, she gave her first testimony. As it turned out, she was the mistress of Francis Anderson, the husband of the bedridden Camille. Moreover, it turned out that the young handsome man wasn't who he claimed to be. Francis was a con man who specialized in wealthy widows, and Camille was one. She had lost her businessman husband in a terrible car accident. Having charmed the naive woman, the handsome man decided to get his hands on her fortune. In order to do this, he got married to Camille, who already had a son from her first marriage. Francis thought that he was only one step away from being set for life, but Camille must have sensed that something was off and changed the code of her safe deposit box, where she kept all her savings. However, the con artist didn't know it at the time when he caused Camille's car accident, which got her into this hospital bed. As fate would have it, the woman survived, and Francis now tried to extort the code from her. That's why he sent his accomplice, and concurrently his mistress, Dorothy Parker, to the clinic where she was to become a nurse. The woman blackmailed Camille every day by threatening her son, thus trying to get the coveted code out of her. Fortunately, thanks to William's attentiveness, the criminal couple was stopped before they did any real damage, and for the first time in several weeks, the woman was able to feel safe. It hadn't even been a month since Francis and Dorothy got arrested, when the patient already felt much better and was finally able to thank the chief of the clinic for all his help. Looking at the happy Camille Anderson, William realized that he had developed feelings for her, which could well turn into true love. It's hard to say whether their meeting was destined to happen or whether it was all a freak accident. But be that as it may, the surgeon knew that he had finally met his true soulmate. And therefore, when Camille finally recovered and was discharged from the clinic, William Hall asked her to marry him, realizing that he simply couldn't let this woman get away. To the delight of the chief physician, the woman agreed to marry him, which once again confirmed that he was right about her. Now that William and Camille are living together, they have plenty of time to take care of their son, Michael. And the boy is very happy to get all the extra attention and to have a new pet, Spike, who had quickly become his best friend.